I've come to the opinion that horse-grade MSM is, in a sense, equivalent to manure. It is so gross and so poor quality. My sensitivity is such that it just registers in giving me a new problem I didn't have before, a cold condition, as if to replace whatever it was I was trying to fix by taking it in conjunction with silver hydroperoxide. So it ain't worth it. And then I go and remind myself what the cost is of bulk, powdered, or crystalline non-tablet form of MSM, and it's huge. What a difference in price. It's no wonder why I gravitated to the horse grade, but it's not worth it. The suffering that I subjected myself to, giving myself a cold condition, although I realized salt was missing in my diet to help me fight a cold condition, still that doesn't negate the fact that the horse grade MSM is wrong to begin with. So I can no longer say that this formulation is cheap. I've already invested nearly $1,000 purchasing a bulk colloidal silver generator as it is, so that I can take a bath in a substantial quantity of silver. And now I realize I have to use horse-grade MSM, human-grade MSM, not horse-grade, in the bath, or when combined with silver hydroperoxide for any use, which includes the bath, which means now I've got my expenses on a list. And then 6 gallons of distilled water per batch, and it's the hot season of the year right now. The last thing I want to do is run my puny little water distiller non-stop around the clock to make my own distilled water. I could, but I can't. The heat's bad enough. So, in my tiny little room. So I'm looking at huge expenses, but it's to avoid poor health. There's no point in trying to fix health just to make it worse all over again. What it does to shift my consciousness is quite unbelievable. It's remarkable. It's remarkable. This is why I didn't use silver hydroperoxide for a whole year, because I couldn't believe the results. But now I've kind of backed my way into it, and it's superb. Silver hydroperoxide with human-grade MSM and just a teeny-weeny bit of cayenne pepper in the bath, and then ample quantities of salt, at least once a day during a meal, and lots of tea because I have a hard time drinking water, and mostly a vegan diet. Only once in a while raw fish, but once in a very rare occasion. B vitamins every day. You know, it's expensive. It's not too complicated, and of course it doesn't come under insurance, and it's not going to be provided by the medical establishment. It's something I have to do myself at home, but it gives me full control and full culpability towards what I'm doing to myself. Yet it's phenomenal what it does to shift consciousness and empower humility. I think it's the MSM ultimately that changes everything and shifts it into the framework of humility, which is something I've been lacking since a child, since an adolescent. And it's nice to have a taste of that all over again. It's there's nothing you can do to embellish humility, because if you do, then it's no longer humility. But I have to admit, that's what it feels like. There's just no point to making matters worse, though, and come down with a cold condition in the process. So it's not worth using horse-grade MSM. It's just the cost trade-off just isn't worth it. So I guess that's all I have to say. It's a little bit of a disappointment to have to share this, that, oops, now the cost is going up. It's not going down. But it makes for a clean system, a clean recipe that doesn't have any faults to it. It's, oh yeah, I might as well mention, my tap water comes from a well out of the ground. There's absolutely no chemicals added. I did consider the other night while I was taking a walk in the middle of the night, I thought to myself, well, wait a minute, we don't have sewer systems in our area. We have to use a septic tank system, and it just seeps into the ground. I wonder how close it is to the well. I wonder which way, sometimes I worry about things like that. But it is as about as ideal as it could get. It's just I've had to do all this stuff to make improvements and develop this recipe for improving health instead of watching my life force get worse with every year at an accelerated pace due to antifreeze poisoning over 10 years ago and parasites back in '79 from drinking the water in Hawaii streams without sterilizing it for 6 weeks, and a congenital defect of my immune system and digestive system being not up to par at birth or during gestation. So I know I get slandered for coming up with my own theories to explain what's going on, but I have to float myself along based on the various citations I use, such as Becker being one of them. And I'm entitled to cite outside sources when I'm not talking about personal experience, and I'm entitled to my own opinion as to what is going on with my own personal experience, as well as simply quote somebody. My God, some people have a hard time with me quoting my sources and saying what they said. I don't embellish when I cite my sources. In fact, Charlie Lutz made a very stern point during lectures. If you're going to quote accurately or don't quote at all. And I'm not one of these people who's anal about it, although a lot of the times I have been, but I just don't take the trouble anymore to be that anal to say, okay, it's on page 6, column 2, and, so instead I just give a general reference. Oh, it's from Becker's book, or, and I leave it at that. But when I talk outside my own personal experience, I do cite other people, and I have to, because I'm entitled to, because they're the source. I didn't just cook all this stuff up. I only cooked out a little bit, a teeny little bit did I cook up out of my own personal experience. The rest I have to cite. Even if I do it broadly with a broad brush, I do cite. And I do quote my cites. So it's not like, when I say cite, I mean C-I-T-E-S, I don't mean S-I-G-H-T. Not that it's very analogous. Setting my site in the past, I give citation in order to give credibility. Well, I don't know if credibility is the right word. To give myself a foundation upon which to work. I do need a foundation. I just can't stand on my own feet. It's not good enough. Anywho, that's still buggling me in my brain that somebody doesn't like what I have to say. Is all I got to say is, I'm doing everything right, and I'm doing it the right way. And the difference in bathing in this stuff is like night and day. Drink it, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And your taste buds tell you it's antagonistic because it's not food. It's an oxidizer. Would you drink Clorox, I mean, silver hydroperoxide is an oxidizer. Why would anybody in their own stupidity drink this stuff? Bathing in it. To replace the ideology of the Southern California, or anybody's water municipality chlorinating or chloraminating, probably the closest thing is the ozone in Israel or in Europe. But I can see now why they use ozone and not hydrogen peroxide, because it's the wrong charge to use hydrogen peroxide. Hydrogen peroxide is a net charge of negative, which means you're going to corrode your pipes and put all those heavy metals into solution. So you have to use ozone because that's a positive net charge, and that retains the integrity of your pipes, so you don't get heavy metal poisoning from from the byproduct of your sterilized water passing through your pipes coming to your use at your faucet. And so it's the right way to do it. So they're not doing it wrong in Europe. Of course, we find fault with it as our excuse for using chlorine and chlorine combined with ammonia. But if I had my druthers, I think ozone would be far superior any day of the week. But that's me, and nobody asked my opinions, so it's unsolicited advice right here and now. But even better than that is to simply get your own water from the earth, or from the air, if it's not polluted sufficiently, and add your own oxidizer. And so the evolution of what I've been doing studying Becker is simply to come up with a different way to sterilize the tap water. I wouldn't want to drink it, but I certainly like bathing in it and soaking the body in it. Colloidal silver reacted with hydrogen peroxide, human grade MSM added, and food grade hydrogen peroxide reacted with the colloidal silver, and a little touch of cayenne pepper, and it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful recipe, but you can't make any money off of that, right? It's not going to work. You can only do it at home, and it actually costs money. So, not going to get rich off of this, that's for sure. Unless we make a documentary movie, and yeah, right. Hollywood's going to go that route. I don't think so. Too many vested interests to rattle. But it is empowering, and there's no question about the healing crisis that comes over, that can come over you going through something like this, especially when it's human grade MSM. So that's the focus. Is forget anything I said about horse grade MSM. It's not worth it to cut cost in that area. It has to be human grade MSM. There's no question about it. And the cayenne pepper is essential because it kicks the body to use the silver. If you're debilitated to begin with, it's not enough to put silver into solution with the help of hydrogen peroxide, and it's not enough to stabilize that with MSM. You still got to get the body to want to use the stuff. So it really is true that cayenne pepper is a form of debridement in the sense that it kicks the body. It aggravates it. It gives it a kick from the rear to say, come on, do something with your life, on the cellular levels, so that the cells and the organs of the body can make use of silver and not shut down with its presence. And that's the only reason why people get argyria, is because it's too much of a burden to use silver, even though it's beneficial, because the system is too debilitated to use it. And the cayenne pepper changes everything in that regard, and that's why it's a necessary ingredient, but in very extremely small quantity, but not too small that it's not at all useful. So what I do is I figure, okay, I add cayenne pepper to the bath, and I under add it, because I can always add more if it's not enough, and I can feel the difference. But if I add too much, I'm going to regret being in the bath. And I do want a slight regret, because that's the appropriate amount of cayenne pepper, but not too much regret. So if I'm in the bath for an hour and a half, that's fine. That's perfect. Or even 2 hours. I think I was in for 2 hours this morning. But I don't want it to be so bad that I end up resenting going through the procedure. That would be unconscionable. But you do need the cayenne pepper. It's like Dr. Pramod Vora recreating a new wound, giving yourself a fresh wound over the old wound, to be able to engage Becker's protocol at all, because Becker's protocol is based on a wound, the presence of a wound. If you don't have a wound, then Becker's protocol doesn't work. It's the whole basis of it. He amputated the limbs of salamanders, come on, and frogs, and lab mice, lab rats or lab mice. So, how do you approach it? Well, so you have to make it uncomfortable. You have to make the body uncomfortable for it to be able to kick into gear and actually use the silver. If you're looking for comfort zone, then you're going to be bitching your whole life about the argyria that you're stuck with. What good is that going to do you? But if you make yourself uncomfortable with the help of some means or method of debridement, now the silver has its place in your life. because you have a metabolism that's active and dynamic enough to handle it. Otherwise, it ain't going to handle it. So that's the irony. You have to be healthy to be able to make use of the health benefits of silver, or else you're not going to be able to make use of it. And there's a hoary, ancient tradition in India of spicy foods, not just because they had no refrigeration, but because they had the use of silver. That's why, Krishna is blue, and Krishna means black. That's why Rama is blue, and Shukadeva is slate gray discoloration, and Shiva is blue. And why the tradition in India is that you're close to the absolute if you're blue. It isn't because they had a blue pigmentation in their skin. It's possible. But in all likelihood, I'm interpreting it as meaning, oh no, they had the use of silver, but unfortunately it was silver salt because that was the best they could do. But you still have to use cayenne pepper to get your body to use the silver, regardless of your level or degree of technology of formulating your silver compound. Now we have hydroperoxide, which is very technically savvy for our age. It's not easy to produce. You can't make it in your home, in your kitchen, if you're a home chemist, in your garage. You can't. It's not something you can cook up yourself. But it makes the formulating of silver bioavailable to the body far in excess of what silver salt does, and far superior to colloidal silver for that matter, in terms of bioavailability. That's the problem, like with silica. It doesn't want to dissolve in water very readily. But if you go through some technological savvy procedures to make it bioavailable, silica becomes a nutrient. It's no longer just sand. So it's that kind of same way with silver. If you've got argyria, then you're not metabolizing it. Something's wrong. And you've got to rethink your thinking on how you approach the stuff. Instead of just treating it like sludge, and there's nothing better you can do with it, well, then you're signing off, basically. You're throwing in the towel, and that's your choice, and you get to live with the results of your choice. But there is more to it, and there is more possible to it, if you're willing to go there. It just takes something out of you to do it, to make it happen. It's not going to be for free. Okay, there's no free ride here. It's not going to happen. Argyria is coasting and thinking you're going to get a free ride and go to the authority figures and they'll solve it for you. Well, it's not in their best interest to solve the argyria problem. It is solvable, it is curable, it is preventable, but they're not going to attach themselves to that pursuit because it's going to undermine their income streams. So don't expect them to be favorable and friendly to your cause. To, independent of them, do your own research on Becker. It ain't going to happen. You got to do it on your own, and you will be on your own. And they'll tear you down from any direction conceivable because they don't want Becker to go grassroots and spread. That's the last thing they want to have happen. But there was a wound at the basis of Becker's research. That was the basis of his research, was the wound itself. So if you're willing to work with cayenne pepper as your substitute for a wound and use hydroperoxide component of the silver hydroperoxide in moderation, in a useful dosage, but you don't overdo it because it is an oxidizer, and you use human grade, high 99% purity MSM to stabilize the whole situation and empower it as well, for that matter. A nice human grade of MSM, then you've got all the elements, You've got the main elements. And of course, the whole foundation of this is colloidal silver, the very thing that Rosemary Jacobs and other people want to attack. The community, the silver community, for making their own colloidal silver. That's the foundation of this whole formulating procedure to create this 4-ingredient solution in water, in distilled water. Or 5 ingredients, you can't forget the distilled water either, for that matter. But it's the colloidal silver that's the first step in this procedure of formulation. So I have to give credit where credit is due, because that's where all the roots are coming from for what I've been able to develop on my own. And I don't need to be somebody else's guinea pig. I hate to say this. I'm my own guinea pig. I work as an independent. I don't screw around under somebody else's umbrella. I work under my own umbrella, and that's the only way I work. So sorry to disappoint you, Mr. Naysayer on Energetic Forum, because it's not the way I operate. I operate alone, thank you very much. And if you don't like me sharing, and if you don't want me to share on Energetic Forum, there won't be anything I can do about it if you want to block me. Whatever, go right ahead. But I'm obviously not out here to play your game. I play my own game, thank you very much. Whatever.